finding your calling, living your calling, unleashing your calling, whatever you want to call it. But again, what I was saying last night, and I'd like you to consider, is that a calling is something you love that will take you past any fear. So tonight I'm going to ask you to maybe open up to where is your heart calling you right now? Again, like what we said yesterday, for me, it's always about creating a safe space where we're going to experiment, we're going to open up, we're going to consider, we're going to become available to whatever's present for us now, what's present for anybody else right now. So we're going to be talking about where is your heart calling you right now, and the main thing we're going to be focusing on tonight is how do you keep your heart open? How do you keep your heart open? Because, there's disappointments, there's challenges that happen, and how do we keep our heart open? So one of the things I want to say about finding your calling, a lot of you have been talking to me, and I love it. A lot of you have been asking me questions, and a lot of you have said, can I have one calling? What if I like many things? What if I don't know what it is? Whatever. I'm always going to say, let's listen to what's speaking to you right now. And yes, your calling could be beyond definition, beyond what you think you know. So I want to tell you just a funny story that happened for me early on when I was touring on my first book, This Time I Danced, my very first book. I went to see one of my family members. I went to see an aunt in Florida, and she asked me, "Tammy, what are you doing? What's this tour about? What are you doing?" And so I told her, "I'm helping people follow their hearts. I'm helping people find their calling." And so she interrupts me, and she's like, "Oh my God, Tammy, I know exactly what you mean. We told your cousin Ronnie all the time, follow your heart. Follow your heart. You could be a doctor or a lawyer. Follow your heart." I swear to God, this is a true story. You have to be related to it. And if you are related to it, you might as well use it, right? So I'm here to tell you that you have more than two choices here. That you have 1,000 choices, and actually you don't. You have one choice, and that one choice is going to be following what's inside you. There's a path already inside you. There's this original genius inside you, and it's going to be, how do I follow that higher intelligence? How do I listen to that? So I'm going to read you something quickly. From Learning to Trust Yourself, which is my latest book, but I wanted to read this to you to set us up. Because a lot of times we're getting in our own way, and we're using our brains instead of our hearts, our souls, our sacredness. So I'm going to read this briefly. And it says, maybe you trust your connection to brave, intuitive forces only some of the time. You tell yourself you're being responsible, preventing disappointments. Yet in the name of intelligence, you are blunting your highest intelligence. Because a part of you senses there is another way. There is your path. There is the way this life is meant to work for you. Here's what not trusting yourself and telling yourself to be realistic can mean. You are unconsciously training your eyes and ears to look for a more limited identity than the infinite energy within you. You are acclimating to an image of yourself as helpless or held back by how things work. You are feeding this image. You are creating that world over and over. Many of us do that, don't we? We think we're being realistic, and we start looking for a lesser life. We start looking for lesser things. And so it says, we start feeding this image, creating that world over and over. Still, it doesn't feel right. A diluted life is not a life you love. Things may feel familiar, but they don't feel right. There is a hunger to be whole, to not deny your instincts, but to become the person you dream of being. You know there is more to you and more for you. You know it. Even when you try to ignore it, the tug of yearning will not go away. It's always there. This isn't a delusion or some fairy tale. It's a knowing. This is the voice of inner guidance. You crave the feeling of being the real you. It's your birthright, your blueprint, your inner salsa, your code. Your life purpose is to listen to your inner voice, but to listen to the voice of love inside yourself instead of the voice of fear, the voice of strength instead of the voice of weakness. This is the paradigm shift. This is how you step into a new identity and a true relationship with yourself and a responsibly alive universe. So that's what I wanted to talk about, is because many of us think about listening to an inner voice, but we don't always know which voice, right? And very often we're hearing our conditioned voices. We're hearing conditioned stories. And it's about going to a higher intelligence, a higher love, something that's inside you. And for me, this is a path of continuously keeping our hearts open, which isn't always easy, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask you to think about, because again, I always believe this is like a living conversation between us, like what you're thinking or needing, and I'm thinking and needing. We kind of co-create this together. Maybe what's a story that you tell yourself all the time? Maybe stories that get in your way. So you don't have to answer that right now, but this is just something to be thinking about, yeah, I want to keep my heart open. I want to follow a calling. I want to follow a dream. I want to have a calling. I want to know what my purpose is, or I want to go deeper with it. Whatever it is, right? It has many different forms, but I'm going to ask you to think about maybe what's a story that you keep telling yourself that gets in the way, right? Or something that's on your mind that way. So I'm going to read you one other quick thing. This is from A Year Without Fear. And if you look for this passage, I am reading from, what am I reading from here? Let me see. I think this is the wrong date. Wait. It's supposed to be April. I don't know how I skipped a month. That is not it. Okay. We're reading from April 14th, if you choose to read this. Maybe you've been disappointed because something hasn't happened that didn't, Maybe you've been disappointed because something happened that didn't look like your bliss. You take your marbles and go home. You rage against this circumstance, this life, and everything coming down the pike forevermore. Your tantrum gets in the way of your birth. Closing your heart is your only problem. Closing your heart stops the deluge of everything you truly desire. Today I will look at, where am I raging against a circumstance? I am willing to open my heart. So that's the intention I hope we're going to set tonight together, maybe for the rest of our lives, and many of you already have this intention of, can we open our hearts? Because when we really open our hearts, we're available. We think differently. Our brain chemistry is different, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what stops us from doing that, how the stories get in our way. And one of the things I know is it's not what's happening to you that stops you. It's not what's happening to you. It's what you're making it mean, right? So I'm going to ask you to think about in your own life, what am I making this mean? Again, if you're ever having a circumstance that's bothering you, I'm going to ask you to always think about, what am I making this mean? Because one of the things that excites me about living your calling and teaching people how to live their callings, it will heal every single block that's in the way. Like all our blocks come up, all our stories, all our past stuff, right? So I'm going to give you an example from my life. Years ago, I met my partner. I was at a spiritual conference, and I met this man, Paul. And Paul is very quiet. He's a gentle, quiet soul. And at the time, it was a spiritual conference, and it was like, oh my God, there's a man at a spiritual conference. So of course, I went right up to him, like, oh my God, right? You know. So anyways, we start to talk, and more like it, I start to talk. And so we're walking along, because he's very quiet, right? And so we're walking along, and I'm talking to him, and he's not saying much, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe he's a good listener. This could kind of work, right? So I'm talking away and babbling away at him, whatever. And then all of a sudden, a fear starts to come in. Have you ever had that, where you're doing fine, and then there's some thought that comes in, or some fear comes in? Some fear comes in, and I start thinking, he's being kind of quiet. You know, maybe he's bored. Maybe he's judging me. Maybe he's planning his exit strategy. How do I get away from this woman? So like now I have this fear that he's rejecting me and he's thinking all these horrible thoughts about me, right? So what do you do when you feel attacked? You attack. Right? When you feel judged, you start judging back in your mind, right? So I'm feeling judged. By the way, he has not said a word. He's done nothing wrong. But I'm feeling judged because of this interpretation in my head. And by the way, here's what happens. The second you start judging, or you have some fear come up, then you start having every memory that's been negative comes attracted to it, right? So I have this fear that he's bored or whatever. So now every past relationship comes to mind, right? Of anything anybody ever said to me, like, oh my God, you're intense, or oh my God, blah, blah, blah. So I'm starting to remember all these past people in my mind, and I'm starting to think, I don't need this kind of abuse. I just don't need this. I don't deserve this kind of abuse, right? And then, of course, I start attacking back. You know, I could probably do better. You know, I don't need this, right? This poor man has said nothing, right? So, but this is what's going on in your brain. All these different things are going on in your head. Thank God I had the presence of mind at the time to finally ask him, hey, you know, I notice you've been kind of quiet, and I'm just wondering, is anything going on? And he just looks at me and he says, well, to be honest with you, I'm a little nervous. I'm kind of nervous. You know, you're beautiful and you're intelligent, you know, and I'm a little nervous. And I start thinking, oh my God, what a superior individual. Oh my God, what an astute man. They don't make them like that. So, true story. And I tell that story because we are doing that at all times. Your past is coming up in your head. Your interpretations are coming up in your head. You are making something mean something. This poor man is being quiet, and I am making it mean all these kinds of things. And unfortunately, most of us not only make it mean that, we act as though it's true. And we believe it's true. And we act as though it's true. And then we create it, right? You know? And so, again, I'm going to ask you in your own life, when something's going on, are you sure that's what's really going on? We're going to start getting mindful about that, right? So I'll share another example of this, because to me, one of the most important things you're ever going to do in this lifetime is to discover the things that might be in your way. In A Course in Miracles, which I teach, which is also a spiritual psychotherapy program of living in love instead of fear, one of the things it teaches is that we are here to undo the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Meaning love is always here, that presence is always here, that chemistry is always here, your divine instincts are always here, but maybe we have a block or an idea that's in the way, right? So I'll give you another example of this, and I started noticing in my own life, if you start to become mindful, you start to notice different thoughts that you recurringly have, different thoughts that maybe get in your way. You don't even know they're getting in your way. They just come up, right? They're just there as kind of talk, right? So I started noticing that I had this one story in my head that kept saying, I never get what I want. I never get what I want. And it would just be like all of a sudden I would notice like, you know, maybe a new friend canceled. You know, we were going to have lunch and a new friend canceled. And it's like, see, I never get what I want. You know, a client was going to come in and then the client didn't come. See, I never get what I want. My favorite lipstick was discontinued from the store. A real crisis, true crisis, right? And it's like, see, I never get what I want, right? So I started noticing this story, and I started because, by the way, your stories will block reality. Your stories will block the truth, right? I was surrounded by things I wanted. I was surrounded by good things that had happened in my life. We're all surrounded by things we could appreciate and take in and love, but we're telling ourselves these kinds of stories. So I started asking myself, where did that story come from? You know, like, how did I even come up with a story like that? I never get what I want, you know, because I wanted to heal it. I wanted to start being mindful of it and aware of it. And I had this memory that when I was a little girl, I was shopping with my mother. And we were in this department store. And I just remember this day, I saw these red shoes when I was this little girl, and I fell in love with them. I fell madly in love with these red shoes. And I thought, oh my God, I want the red shoes. Oh my God, I want this. You know, it just felt like, oh my God, I needed them. But I knew I was with my mother, and my mother's a superbly practical woman. And I just knew she is never going to get the red shoes. She's going to tell me, the red shoes? Who wears red shoes? You know, she's probably going to go, the green elf shoes, they're on sale. You'll love those, right? So I was waiting for that. But it was a miraculous day. The heavens opened. It was a miraculous day. And my mother said I could have the shoes, which had never happened, right? So I was so excited. And I was really like I was watching the salesperson, and they're wrapping the shoes in this tissue paper, you know, and they're wrapping it, and they're putting it in a box, and then they're putting the box in the shopping bag. And I'm so excited. I'm a little girl. I'm excited. I'm going to get what I want. My mother takes the shopping bag, and I don't know what happened, but she lost it. So I didn't get the red shoes, right? And so I think at that point in my life, I made up a story that said, I'll never get what I want. And I think on some level, I may have done that to prevent against disappointment. Don't believe in something. Don't desire something. Don't follow your heart. Don't believe you could have this calling in your lifetime, whatever it is, right? We're all different, whatever it is, right? Even if the calling is, you know, maybe it's nothing external in the world. Maybe it's to go within and find the ultimate peace, right? So I made this decision to tell myself, I'll never have what I want. That way I would prevent hurt. But guess what happens? When you tell yourself something like, I'm never going to have what I want, you kind of shut down in life. You kind of start giving up on life. You start giving up on yourself in some ways. You want to hear the crazy, crazy thing about this story? First of all, that was an amazing healing for me, because I started realizing I would rather open my heart again. I need to open my heart in this lifetime. I need to dare. I need to try. I need to open up again and again and again, right? That was amazing healing. But the really crazy thing about this story is I talked to my mother about it years later, and I was telling her this whole story about the red shoes, and she's looking at me. She has no recollection of this because it's a traumatic moment of my childhood. Why would she remember it? But just saying. But anyways, so she has no memory of it whatsoever, and then all of a sudden she remembers it, and she looks at me and she says, "What are you talking about? You got those red shoes." And I'm like, no, I didn't, Ma. We got the shoes. You lost them. And she's like, yeah, we lost them. I called the department store. They found the shopping bag. We picked them up, and you got those red shoes. And I had no memory of that at all, because I remembered my belief. I remembered my interpretation, but I did not remember reality. And that's how the mind blocks you. The mind is telling you these things, and you are going to see what you expect to see. You are going to notice what you expect to see, and you're literally going to block other things. right? So I want to just have you take this in for just a moment, because I believe that learning happens when we kind of make it a little bit more real for us. So I'm just going to ask you for just a moment or two to maybe talk to somebody here, just a partner, for just a minute or so. And all I want you to just maybe talk about, if you feel like it, is just maybe what's the story that keeps coming up for you, or what's the call, something that's calling you right now, because we're more of an active learner when we take in a little bit. So we won't do it for long at all, but it's also a chance to serve someone else. People are shy, and it's just really nice to have somebody to share with. So if just to make it a little bit more relevant as we go on, if you will, I'm going to just ask you to maybe turn to somebody and just share just for a moment or two. What's one story keeps coming up for you? Like if you and what's one story you want to maybe let go of, so that you're going to open your heart. So anything you want to share that way, I'm just going to ask you to turn to somebody and talk to them. Should not have gulped too fast. I drank too fast. I gulped it, and it's just like. We're going to start gathering back. Okay, we're going to start gathering back. I love seeing the enthusiasm. That's awesome. A lot of stories in the room, a lot of energy. Excuse me. We're going to start gathering back. Awesome. Wonderful. So I'm just curious. We'll just do just a few of these. I'd love to know, maybe just any thought that you're having. Maybe there's a story that's been in your way, or maybe you're wanting, we were talking last night about how to find a calling. Maybe there's something on your mind that way, or a story that's in the way, or anything that's coming up for you as you're thinking about this. Would anybody like to start? I'm just curious, what's something that's maybe on your mind, or a story that's in the way, or something you'd like to know about finding your calling? Okay, I know you have all stuff. Yes, there's a hand over there. Yes.
Well, I can speak on that. Well, for me, a limited belief.
Oh, that's right. We're online. Yay.
Hello. Okay. So for me, well, one of the big limiting beliefs that I had was that, hey, you need to focus on one thing and one thing alone. Don't be this messy bomb that starts something, cannot finish it.
Did you say messy bomb?
Is a messy bomb? Yeah, that's what I am
that.
sometimes.
Don't be a messy bomb. I love
it's
that.
I explode on so many interests, and then I'm like, oh my god, I'm exhausted, and then I come here to rest. But anywho. What I'm doing right now is that I have that passion, and I want to have my own clinic, and I want to bring wellness to a certain part of the community, back in Montreal, and all that to say that we chatted. And this man here has so many. May I put you on the internet and all of that? Is that okay? So he was in corporate, just like I am right now, doing yoga teaching, different things, and doing all these things, and still being centered. And it's so funny because
he's not a messy bomb.
He's not a messy bomb, and he's doing all these things. And I realized that even if you are doing something, you can still have a little bit of everything.
Absolutely.
And for me, it was really a beautiful moment where it shattered.
Isn't that amazing? That I love that.
Yeah,
right. Because you shared a truth and you shared with somebody, and it was just exactly.
Yeah. So
and I love your passion. Don't ever shut that passion down. Yeah. You can have a lot of different interests. The one thing, so for me, it's always about distinctions. If we have a lot of different interests because we're passionate and we're alive and we're interested, that's wonderful. If we have a lot of different interests because we don't stick with something, because we get to something and then we hit a bump in the road and then it gets hard, so it's like, oh, I'll just go over here now. That's different. Right? So when I'm working with people, I always look at not so much what you do, but what's the motivation behind what you're doing, right? Or is it from love or is it fear? So, but it sounds like maybe you had that limiting story that said you can't have more than one passion.
Yeah.
Many creative, alive, inspired souls do. And one of the things I've done in my own life, because I love speaking and I love coaching and I love writing and I love leading retreats and all kinds of different things. But I really only do one thing. I help people hear their inner voice, right? It takes many different forms, right? So you may find that there's a unifying form in that.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You.
We're going to watch that limiting story and, whatever. Maybe we're going to reframe another term for messy bomb. Right? Passionate. Yes. Explosive in a good way. Those are the people who shift humanity and change the world. We need that, right? And by the way, one of the things I know about a calling, if you're not in love, if you don't have energy, it's really hard to stay focused. It's hard to go past every challenge or difficulty, right? And so that's wonderful. Thank you. Maybe another thought that's on somebody's mind, a story that gets in your way, or something that you are thinking about a calling. Somebody's got a hand. Where? Yes, thank you.
Also a messy bomb over here. The story that I tell myself often is yes. It's like, great idea. You're going to do it.
Wow.
And eventually it's like, but not now. Because there's the other ideas that are happening or the bumps that happen in life. And all of a sudden the timing is not right. So the momentum that is there turns into inertia. And then it's just and it just stops.
Is it inertia, or is it because you said the timing's not there? So I'm just going to pause for 1 second, because I think sometimes we are telling ourselves, I'm being lazy, I'm not following through, and sometimes the timing isn't there, right? Sometimes it's not the right time. Our head is so far ahead. A lot of times our head has an idea, and thinks, that's it. I had the idea, so I should do it. But I think there's a period of integration also. I was saying this last night too. It's like my head has all kinds of ideas. If I'm in yoga, my head goes, well, they can do that. Why can't I do that? I can think it. But just because I can think it doesn't mean I can do it. I need to build up to it incrementally. So I'm just curious, is it inertia or is it something else?
Well, it's probably both. I think it becomes inertia.
Okay. So I'll just say quickly, and again, I like to just share just because it might hit somebody else in some ways, but sometimes we're saying yes, and sometimes it's a real yes, right? But sometimes we're saying yes with our head because we're afraid of uncertainty. There's so many times that people are afraid of uncertainty or afraid of being in between things. And so they just say yes to something. When I'm working with clients, a lot of times I always forbid them to get some degree or certificate without checking in, right? Because a lot of times it's like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm scared, so I'll sign up and I'll get this degree or certificate because it'll give me meaning. Right? It'll sound like I'm doing something. So again, maybe you're learning your personal version of what's a real yes, right? What's a real yes and what's a, I should do this now. Or also maybe saying yes and staying with it. When I say yes to writing a book, I have to go through a lot of iterations. And there's a lot of moments in that process where, man, I'm saying no. Right? But one thing I know about myself is that once I've said yes to something real, if I don't follow through on some level, I'm going to drag that with me to the next thing. I won't follow through on that either, right? So I'm never saying force it. There are times when you're doing something and it really is right to let it go. People say, well, I don't want to be a quitter and I don't want to just quit things or whatever. And sometimes I don't think it's quitting. Sometimes I think it's evolving. Right? You realized something or you needed something from that, and now you evolved to a next thing. I didn't quit 7th grade. I evolved to 8th grade, right? I wasn't a quitter, right? So again, I think for all of this, it's never so much about the action. It's about all the stories we're telling ourselves of, and maybe for you, it's going to be, I can trust myself, and I'm going to learn to listen to what's a real yes for me. So thank you for that. That's great. Maybe there's one more. Yes, there's a hand over there.
So my question is, the story I tell myself is I have to know all the steps. I have to see the outcome. I have to know for certain that this is going to work before I start. And so my story is one of, I guess there's a lot of fear in there.
Yeah.
Like I need to know every step and how to do it and what the outcome looks like. And then instead, all I start seeing are the blocks of like, this could go wrong, that could go wrong. I don't know about this. All the questions that I don't have answers to.
Yes. Yes.
So I guess
that's
my
a
story
great
is I
one.
need all the answers.
I love that. Were you here last night? Were you here in Satsang
Yes.
last night? Okay. So that was for me. I so relate to that. And that was for me, my own healing was finally realizing you can't plan an inspired life. You're never going to plan it. You literally can't see the steps because it's unimaginable. It's not of you. It's not of the historic you. It's not of the limited you. And here's the thing that happens for us is that we think we need all the steps, and so we don't take the first step. And you know what the first step would do? It would fill you with love. Like when I think about writing and I think about where will this go and what if I can't write a book that would sell and what if this doesn't happen, but when I actually write, even though I don't know any of the answers, I'm doing my calling. And when I do it, my brain chemistry changes. I feel alive. I feel more love. Hasn't everybody faced some uncertainty? Like every time I go to the first time I came here last year even was just like, oh my God, I don't know what this is. And what if it's, what if I'm not a fit? And what if this? And what if that? But thank God I got on a plane, right? And then when you're in it, it's its own answer. Right? But you'll never get the answer from your mind. Like the ego or that false self wants a certainty that's not out there. And so maybe it's just giving yourself permission to try, to say, I don't have the answers, but I don't have the answers, all the answers, but I have this answer. In this moment, I know this. And in that moment, I know that. Because moment by moment, you'll be led. And I promise you, it's almost like when you do it, your energy changes. Because for me, when I'm doing something I love, my brain chemistry changes. I'm more resourceful. I'm more creative. I'm more patient. I'm not uncertain. There's moments when you're connected to what you're meant to do, and it's like, oh, you can take me now. This is it. Yes, I hope it sells, but even if it does, I'm a writer, and sometimes I'll change to the, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a God, right? It's like, for me, it's like, for some reason, that connects me to me, right? So thank you for that. That's an awesome one. I'm going to tell one other quick story and wrap up because I know it's late. Unless, did anybody else have another one? I don't want to cut anybody off. Yes, there's one more. Yes.
Okay. So Narayani and I were talking, and then a story that comes up a lot is I'm not enough. And sometimes it feels that when I say I'm not enough, this makes me kind of overcompensate and feel like I'm being too much as well. So Narayani said that she feels she's too much sometimes. So it's kind of the play between feeling inferior and then having to compensate. And then also sometimes feeling inferior, feeling superior and trying to bring yourself back down, making yourself smaller.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. That's really great. And here's the thing. We're not enough.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are enough. Of ourselves alone in our limited brain, we're not enough, but we're co-creating with something else. That's why I can't see the steps. That's why I can't see where to go, because something higher in me knows it. So I feel limited until I do what I'm meant to do. When I first started coaching, I was so afraid, like, oh my God, what if everybody's smarter than me? What if there's so much more together than me? Because that is a distinct possibility. That is a real possibility. My mother didn't help because my mother would always go, do they know your life? Do they know your life? You're going to coach, And so I was so afraid, like, oh my God, what, who am I? What am I going to do? And then I remembered, they're not paying to see Tama. They're not paying to see me and my limitations and my stories of who I am and from Brooklyn. They're paying to see the light that comes through Tama. That's what they're paying for. That's what coaching is for me, is that, or any talent, right? It's not so much about me and my personality and whatever, but the light that I allow to come through me, the light that I serve, the light that is in me, the light that is in you, right? And so I don't feel like enough until I'm using that light. And then it's more than enough. And by the way, acting superior is the same thing as being inferior. They're the same thing. It's insecure, right? Or sometimes we think we have to take down our light to make someone else feel better. And I want you to shine your light. It's not superiority, but it's shining your light. Because like I said last night, and I'll say it over and over, this world is in pain. It needs more light. It needs you owning your light. Those of us who are telling ourselves this story, we're holding these talents back. We're holding these gifts back. We're holding this genius back. And how do we know that you're not going to influence Narani and she's not going to influence somebody else and they're not going to influence whatever? And that's, that's the repair of the world, right? That none of us can do this alone, but that's the repair of the world, right? So thank you for that. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to tell you one quick story to end with, because for me, it's another version of opening your heart and keeping your heart open. Because some of you may feel like you've made mistakes or it's too late or you can't do it. So I'll just... years ago, when I came out with my second book, Inspired and Unstoppable, when I came up with that book, I made all these plans behind the scenes. I thought, this time I'm going to get it right, because I had always felt like I didn't know what I was doing in business and I didn't do it right. And so I thought, I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to make all these plans and about marketing or book promotion or touring, and I'm going to do all this stuff, right? And so right before the book came out, everything started falling apart. everything started falling apart. And by the way, the second you're trying to prove yourself, you're doing the wrong thing. You're on the wrong path, right? But anyways, everything started to fall apart. Everything started to go haywire. My assistant left. The person who was helping me, my partner got really, really ill, and so that all of a sudden that took precedence, and everything just started. So I was missing deadlines and all the things I was going to do and all the things I meant to do, and I was missing all these deadlines, and I was starting to get really scared because, like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And I was starting to freak out. And if you'd met me at a party, I'd be like, which is not very attractive in a self-help author that's just written a book called Inspired and Unstoppable, right? I'm like, so my girlfriend at the time said, okay, you're a nut and we need to do something, right? So she said, you need to go see this healer. You have to go see this healer in the mountains. And so you know how when you're scared out of your mind and your life is falling apart, it's like, I'll do anything, right? That's like, I need to get an answer. So I go visit this healer in the mountains. I drive up to whatever. She's in a yurt. Okay, she's in a yurt. I'm from New York City originally. I don't know from yurts. It's a round tent. I'm like, okay, what did I just get myself into? And so I go sit with the healer, and she's this lovely woman, and she says, what would you love to heal today? And I'm like, oh my God. And so like, I want to heal this and this and this and this. And that poor woman, I think she thought, oh God, I'm going to have to sage this whole place now. Oh my God. Oh my God. There's no two ways about it. I have to sage this whole place now or burn it down. So she says, okay, forget about this. Let's do a ritual, right? So she takes me, there's a stream on her property, and she takes me to the stream, and she has me stand in the center of the stream. And she says, okay, face this way. And all the water's rushing, and twigs are going by and leaves are going by. And she said, that's your book tour that you missed. That's all the things you were going to do. Look, that went away. Look, you were going to write that article. Whoops, that's gone. Oh, look, you were planning to be a bestseller. Oh, that's gone. Oh, look, somebody else is going to get all the ideas you never fulfilled. And it's like, that's gone. And so she's asking me, what do you feel as you're watching all of this fall apart, all of us go? And I'm thinking, what I'm feeling is I need another healer. Because this is not helping me at all. But I start thinking, it's like it's all out of control. It's out of control. Oh my God, I feel so out of control. And then all of a sudden I got it. I was out of control. And I got it. It was out of my control. These things happened, and it was out of my control. And I had done the best I could, and I was doing everything I could, but it was out of my control. And all of a sudden I had this flood of forgiveness come, this flood of self-forgiveness of I was doing what I could, but it was out of my control. And then she said, okay, now I want you to stand in the stream this way, and I want you to see the stream coming at you and coming at you. And she said, this is your life. And it's giving you this opportunity and this chance and that new person and that new gift. And she made me realize that life was still coming and coming and coming. But the problem was, it's not so much the past that creates your future, it's your present. I was hanging on so much to the past of what I didn't do and what I should have done and what I could have done that I wasn't available to what was coming and what was coming, right? And so for me, I finally realized it's this present moment that changes everything. And I had to choose again. And I had to choose to open my heart. And I had to choose to say, I'm going to dare to believe again. I'm going to dare to open up again. I'm going to dare to choose again and again and again to find this light in me, no matter how long it takes or whatever it is. And it changed my life to do that. So I'm just going to invite you, when you're going through a difficulty, to forgive yourself, to know you've done the best you can, to go and forgive that, to not close your heart to yourself, and to choose again, because we need your light in this lifetime, and it's a practice. Thank you so, so much. I so appreciate your energy and being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm doing the workshop tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and the book signing is Okay, the book, I'm doing a book signing in the bookstore. You can get any of my books and I'll sign them for you. 11:30 to 12, I'll be there. And my mailing list went around. If you'd like, I do free fortune cookies, digital fortune cookies that come out with sayings to keep you inspired. So that's what that list was and all that good stuff. So I look forward to talking to more of you. And thank you so, so much. It's been an honor. Thanks.
So I'd like to thank again very much Tama Kieves for this beautiful and inspiring presentation. Let's give her another very big hand. And as Tama mentioned, tomorrow she will be offering, first of all, it will be a book signing of our different books just outside of the boutique between 11:30 to 12. And then the last workshop as part of this program, Unleash Your Calling, Creating the Work and Life You Love, will be here at noon tomorrow. So let's give another very big hand to Tama Kieves. So we'll go over now the schedule for tomorrow. So at 6 o'clock, we'll have the morning satsang here with Bhagavat Chaitanya.